Welcome back to NTAC Live 2012. I'm Chris Walsh from NewTek Network, and of course I'm joined by Lydia Dobyns.
Happy to be here.
Cool. So we're at the tail end of NTAC 2012 here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's been a great conference. I'm wondering what some of your thoughts are as we kind of wrap things up.
I think it's been a great week. I've heard this from the teachers who are going to be brand new to an open NewTek school, to the veteran teachers and leaders. What I loved is even as early as Monday afternoon, in the hallway would hear people talk about deeper learning, and our goal this week was to help deeper learning as a way to frame the work we're doing, be real and meaningful, and guide the thinking for all the educators or people who have a hand in education this week. I'm most excited about that. We started with the notion of dive into deeper learning, knowing no one would know what that means. And so I'm most excited about 1,200 people leaving, not necessarily with the exact same definition, but
that's okay. There doesn't need to be an exact same
that they could go back into their communities and be able to talk about it and have that guide the work and be used as a measure of kind of achieving this reimagining teaching and learning.
Well, I know a lot of the buzz here at the conference has been around students, and clearly we intended to bring a lot of students, but I don't know if we all expected just how much energy that would bring to the conference. Students have been everywhere. I'm wondering what some of your thoughts are on some of the kids who've joined us.
Highlight of the week for me. Highlight was, and not just students, but alumni. So the idea that we could help have them tell their stories directly. I sat in on the Alumni Panel yesterday, an hour and a half, and it was fuel for me. You know, time zone always makes it a little hard, and Starbucks is a wonderful thing, but 8 o'clock in the morning listening to those students was amazing. What I most appreciated from the alumni perspective was to be able to help put into context that transition to college. And there were, we had one alumni who is now a teacher in a NewTek school. Everyone else.
The circle of life.
I know. Pretty exciting as a potential map for so many of our students. But the others on the panel, and I think there were 8 or 9, are all current college students. So just to be able to talk about how that transition was and how well NewTek prepared them. We asked them to talk about what maybe NewTek could do better, what they would have liked in that preparation, and you can imagine a lot of the conversation was about how they're doing in college. But one of the last questions of this session moved me the most, because the question from someone in the audience was, I understand how you're talking about how NewTek prepared you as students, but how has it changed you as a person? What is it about NewTek that you could say contributed to you being a better parent when you're a parent,
or citizen,
citizen? And without any hesitation, the panel participants jumped in, and the most moving one was one of the young men who was on the panel who said, well, and completely surprised me because he is outgoing, effervescent, and charming, and he said, well, I was the bully. When I started at NewTek, I was that kid who needed to feel better by cutting everybody else down around me, and that was who I was. And for 2 years, I struggled a lot at that school, because that's and then something happened, and in my junior year, I realized I didn't need to feel bigger and better by making someone else feel smaller. And now I'm in college. He's pursuing music, and basically said, I'm surrounded by people who need to tell me every day they're better than I am. And in my old me, I would have taken that head on. Wow. But now I recognize that's okay. I know I'm better, but I don't need to have to make that the issue. And I was
those are important things for us to hear, but also for the world to hear. You know, we're surrounded by a world that wants a lot of data, and we love data.
I love data too.
But a lot of quantitative data. But we need that qualitative too. We need to hear those real stories of lives changing, because in the end, that's really what sticks with people.
Yes, I agree.
And Dennis Lickey, our keynote, he brought students too, and that was powerful as well. I'm wondering what you thought about about his comments on stage and some of the other presentations you may have seen here.
Yeah, so appreciated Dennis and the two students that he brought. I think one of the purposes that we have in these large gatherings is to make sure that we bring outside perspectives. And so what I loved about that presentation was it was another organization, very similar aspirations as ours, very different way of achieving that, but it helps us not be too insular in our thinking, and I loved that part of it. I also liked that I could imagine if I were in the audience without knowing that I could see the connections between what an organization like Big Picture Learning has and New Tech Network, and so that to me just simply begins to deliver even more on the promise of the network. The network doesn't have to mean closed.
That's right.
But really the idea that we as educators can be connected to other organizations who are working perhaps differently but for the same goal. So.
And speaking of connected, maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the ways that we're connecting New Tech and expanding New Tech into new communities. So you had a session yesterday and you made some comments throughout the conference here this week about some of our work with districts and some of the work that may be new to a lot of people even within our network. So I'm wondering if you could share some of that.
Yeah, that was another highlight. I guess it's not fair to have so many highlights.
and then we loved
the next best thing. But we had the second year we've done this. We invited superintendents and their thought leaders, most typically the directors of the schools, to join us for an afternoon on Monday. So we had 25 or 26 superintendents from around the network come, which is a pretty big commitment of time, and we appreciated that. The exciting thing, so we have a room of about 100 people by the time they each had someone with them. Rather than spend the afternoon talking about every kind of need to know they had coming in, most of those were operational needs. So how do I measure student success, and we
how
did.
do I pay for computers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which are those are burning questions.
Absolutely.
But they allowed us to step back and look at the why of the work, and then understand some of the practices in adaptive leadership. And so we had a very interesting, very dynamic afternoon in which we were able to provide insights into how we are working with directors in the schools, and to extend an invitation for these superintendents to perhaps think about this as a framework in their own innovation efforts on a district-wide basis. And then we got to the technical part. So.
Well, but I think that's important too. What a lot of people don't realize is all the groundwork that it takes to bring a new tech to their community. This isn't something you just turn a switch on and you say, we're going to do it. There's a lot of deep thinking that has to happen, and a lot of planning and a lot of community buy-in that has to happen to make this work. And bringing those superintendents here, I think, is a big step to that.
Yeah, and we often will spend a year or more helping a community be ready. You know, and our most important goal is to make sure that New Tech is right for that community.
Right.
It's going to be, that school will reflect the community's values, desires, and we never see ourselves going in as a top-down edict. So it's so important to have the stakeholder buy-in, and that includes parents and students, the business community, and of course, teachers, administrators, and district staff. And our planning effort is intentionally designed to make certain that that buy-in occurs as the schools work on developing a school application and then the implementation plan. So that's very critical. In the alumni panel, there were a number of questions about how long it took for the school these students graduated from to be viewed in the community as successful. And quite a few schools have the perception at either end of the scale, this is a school for kids who can't do well,
Right.
or this is only for students who are off the charts smart. And of course, what we know about New Tech schools is they're for every student of every ability, and so that was another great part
That's
of that
great.
conversation.
Well, all of this is part of fueling a lot of growth and expansion for New Tech. And for anybody who's not familiar with New Tech, we're now in 18 states, 120 schools this fall. That's a significant number, a significant growth over the last few years. And a lot of that is fueled by some new initiatives that we have around districts and other partnerships. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why are we working with districts? Is this just get as many new schools as we can out there, or are there other pieces of the puzzle that people should know about?
Yeah, great question.
Thank you very much.
Kudos.
Oh, where's my sticker?
I need one. So we'll have to just pretend it's now
Virtual.
there.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Like in Echo.
Yes. So we have always worked at the district level, but it's been implement a school. So our relationship is always with the district leadership to invite us in and to do that agreement. Now what we see, districts that are considering bringing a New Tech in are starting the conversation with, I have seen and I believe that a New Tech school will work for my community, and I want to know the path to be able to have this kind of teaching and learning for every student in my
Right.
district. Can you help me? And that's music to our ears,
Sure.
because our goal as an organization is to try to impact as many students as we can.
Right.
And in that way, districts have invited us to think about what would we do if we were engaged from the beginning, to think about practices that would in fact bring this across an entire network. Most of the districts we're working with have either a New Tech school established already, so the idea is that New Tech can be a hub. Teachers who have been trained, as they are here at this conference and in other ways, as first certified teachers, and then those who elect to become certified trainers, could in fact act as trainers and even coaches in the way our coaches do for others in the district, whether that's by school or by grade level. And really excited in this next year to have our first group of middle schools, very much based on this idea that if New Tech works so well at the high school level, what could happen if those same techniques were introduced even earlier in a child's education? Because imagine that transition, which everybody knows is about as awful as it can be from middle school to high school, if we weren't shocking somebody with a completely different way of teaching and learning as they already tackle that difficult transition from middle to high school. So.
Well, you said something interesting there about impact, and so our district work is about expanding the impact of New Tech to more kids. There's a lot of other things we're doing though in that area of impacting students and impacting teachers, and the two initiatives that come to mind are one around student work, the quality of work that students are doing and the assessments tied to that, and the other is an e-learning initiative. So tell us a little bit about the assessment work and why it's important for us to focus on that when we think about impact.
That's another great question.
I had some cheater notes.
So, and I often forget to be able to really articulate what success means to us for impacting students, and our goal is that every New Tech student graduate college ready. Doesn't mean that we think there's only one path for every student. But college ready means that if they choose, and if it works in their family situation, to go immediately to a 4-year university, they will have the skills and the competencies to be successful there. Which does mean, we think, no remediation, and being able to start from day one doing well in university level work. So how do we do that, and how do we know we're on the way to that? And that's where the assessments, and really that's what is the great promise of moving to the Common Core. So with that, with so many states except Texas, in the states that we work with, and we love Texas.
We love Texas.
And Texas has its own way of having students.
It's the Republic of Common Core.
Excuse me. It is. So we think of building a foundation of student assessments tied to project-based learning that will help teachers in our network know what college-level work looks like in a PBL world is absolutely the right foundation, and we can build upon that. So if we had a desire, a dream, or a hope here, it would be that not only would we see tasks built into every project that allow for this assessment of college work, but also that we could connect across the entire network. So we would know that we had a calibration so that a student whose work is deemed college ready in Texas or California or Arkansas would mean the same thing for a student anywhere else in the network. And that, I think, is exactly the promise that Common Core offers. If we move as a nation to agree on what college readiness looks like or what competencies there are in academic standards.
But that's also hard work, right?
Very hard.
A lot of people have this hope around the country for the Common Core. I think what we're seeing is that we are putting processes in place here with talented people who have experience in this area to actually work out what does this look like in the classroom? What does this look like to train teachers to do this? What does this look like for students, and what does that quality work really look like? Because that's a missing gap. It's one thing to talk about it up here, it's another thing to actually do it.
And not surprisingly, it was a topic amongst the superintendents because we see great potential. We hear from them, they see the potential. Their challenges are moving from today to tomorrow in what is largely an unfunded mandate. And that the Common Core also has with it some assumptions about being able to measure in real time how students are doing, that just the infrastructure around that has great cost.
Absolutely.
And then we get to the training.
Yeah.
You know, so many initiatives in our country in the last 20 years have failed not because they were not well designed, but because there was not either sufficient investment to allow sufficient training for teachers.
Right.
So one of, I think, the benefits for districts working with NTAC is that we are, thanks to some pretty wonderful support from some foundations
Absolutely.
like the Gates Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation. They're literally providing the funds we need to develop those links in NTAC schools to the Common Core, to assessments, and to, most importantly, training. And that is both the old-fashioned way, which is conferences like this, but what we're really excited about is the digital learning initiative, and that is for both the adult learners as well as the student learners. And I think that will have to be a key to being able to have something that has the great possibility, like Common Core, be real and be realized for every school and every community.
So you transitioned nicely to digital learning. That was really good. And for a lot of people who are thinking about where NTAC's going, they hear words like digital learning or online courses and so on, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I think we've agreed that we're taking this one step at a time so that we can do it really well. So maybe we can just define for people some of the core elements of that online learning strategy that we're working on in just the next couple of years.
That's also so important. You can't read a story about this without having it called blended,
hybrid,
online,
virtual.
And I like to say, and I probably have to stop saying it, we've been doing blended learning since before it was called blended. And so as we look to the next few years, it's deepening what we're already really good at, and that is blended. That is the idea that in a classroom Students can be self-directed part of the time in the work they're doing on projects online, meaning they know how to utilize resources, web-based resources. They know how to collaborate online. And as well as continuing to work in what would look like a more traditional way in a classroom, in a period, in a day, and so forth. The next steps, I think, are being able to push a little bit up against that. Having students work in groups across the country, not needing to be not needing to know each other physically or ever even meet each other, and having a teacher be able to teach students who are not in his or her school. So having both of those, the teaching anywhere, students being involved anywhere, still holding true to the design principles that make NTAC NTAC.
And that's the key, I think, right? Because a lot of people are doing blended, a lot of people are doing online, and many of our schools actually right now take courses online from colleges, they take courses online from other providers, but that's different from what we're talking about. There are very few people out there that are doing PBL online with an expert facilitator who knows how to do that, right?
That is absolutely true, and who have a learning management system as robust as Echo. So for us, moving in this direction feels almost natural because we have students and teachers throughout the network who are using Echo. It's a familiar way to collaborate. So very easy when you talk, and we've had a number of conversations this week when you talk to teachers, to have them see that this could be done, and without having the familiarity of Echo, using it as a way to really enhance and deepen project-based learning from the teacher's standpoint, so designing those projects and then having a way for students to be able to do their work and collaborate in Echo. The resources that are there really provide a great foundation on the technical side, because to talk about online learning, you've got to have a way to do it online.
To implement it,
and so we're excited to be able to see that for Echo. And our first course will be next year in the second semester, probably statistics. We're still in the final stages, but a STEM
Don't quote us on that.
A STEM-related, I can tell you that it will be a STEM-related course. And then exciting, what I think is an exciting way for us to know we're getting it right, is to offer network-wide projects that will be online projects, again in the STEM area, that probably 4 or 5, that will allow teachers to also learn with us, and how it would be for them as teachers to kind of have their students working on a project that is the same project being worked on, driven from Echo.
Yeah, and this is the exciting part, I think, that we've been building to for many years, right? That we have not only a technology platform to leverage across our network, but we're building up the human network at the same time, and they're coming together at this really amazing time where we can start to really see the benefit of what it looks like to merge those two together as we expand our impact. So it's an exciting initiative.
It's really exciting, and we're mindful of all the noise around us. There is a sense of move very fast in order to be part of the hype. We've come to recognize that the quality of the work we do is so important, that while we are putting in resources in place to go against this and moving with a sense of urgency, there's also a great sense of deliberateness and thoughtfulness, so that as we do this, it will be a great learning experience for students. One of the criticisms you hear a lot about online learning today is that it simply moved textbook learning online. And we already have known, and if you know anything about NTAC, you know that our starting point is that type of learning is not preparing students for success, other than graduating with test scores that are supposed to indicate that they're ready for adulthood. So that to me is what's exciting, to be able to bring the quality of the kind of teaching and learning that takes place in our schools online. And of course that will mean great new resources available for schools especially so many of our schools are in rural areas where there are challenges having teachers who can teach some of the advanced courses.
World languages or anything that's specialized.
Well, and the economics aren't there.
Yeah.
So you might have someone who is expert at teaching that, and then there aren't enough students to be able to have the student-teacher ratio work, and so they lose on both ends.
Yeah.
This, to me, has an exciting potential to satisfy those needs and create more opportunity for students and for teachers. Because this means a great teacher can teach well beyond.
Can teach the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on at NTAC. There's a lot going on in the growth, in the new initiatives around quality, et cetera. And I'm glad we had the time to dive into some of those things deeply here at NTAC, but also together. I'm wondering, to kind of close this out, if there were people out there, teachers who are either new to the network or maybe haven't been here at NTAC, what would be the thing you want them to take away from all of these things that are going on at NTAC? What's your message to them?
My message would be pretty simple. We are an organization that not only aspires to reimagine teaching and learning, that's what we're doing on a daily basis, and we're doing that by building that capacity in teachers, in administrators, in communities all around the country of every type. Public schools, charter schools, rural, urban, suburban, starting at the lowest performing to some of the highest performing, because for us the essence is really creating a great environment, which is the culture piece that makes possible then to have teachers in new roles, students in new roles, and then the use of technologies that are common in the workplace, but not so common in schools.
That's great. So thanks for diving deep. I mean, I think we may have had our longest interview here at NTAC Live, which is great,
We are
though.
a bad combination,
it's
because
probably true.
You can talk, I can talk, we could talk, I could talk.
We know probably too much for our own good.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think everyone out there has had a great conference, and thank you for your leadership, but also to everyone, the whole team here at NTAC who've put on a great conference. And thank you to all the folks that have come and joined us here. I mean, this is really a community, and it's exciting to see it grow.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned the staff. We don't like to take time to necessarily applaud ourselves, but the amount of work and the volunteers from around the network.
Absolutely, this has been so much more of a community effort than I think ever.
It
ever has been.
And that's the beauty of the network, and it's great to see that. Walking this morning around at 8 o'clock on the last day of the conference, completely full session rooms, many of them being led by teachers and leaders from around the network, is another highlight for me.
Even after a late night in Grand Rapids.
There are some people who have told me that there are things to do here in Grand Rapids.
We may have captured some of that on video, but it may not see the light of day.
Oh dear. And I want to really thank my friends at Pinckney again. Love you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us here on NTAC Live. I'm Chris Walsh. For everyone at NewTech Network, we'll see you soon.